So welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to have you here. This is the first live session of the CEO Meet and Master program. So this is a huge pleasure to have you all here. And we picked the topic of the day, right? Systemic thinking, because this is not only a very important part of the CEO Meet and Master program, but because it's more needed now than ever, with all the complexity that we're facing and all the different challenges that the pandemic has brought to us. So I thank Corinna Schabbel very much for not only being with us today, but for having set the stage for us in the program and the course, with the course that she gave face-to-face, and then we are offering in the online version, and have the time, Corinna, to explain and to go a little deeper into the concept of systems thinking. So thank you very much, Corinna, for being with us today.
Everybody for joining us today, and I don't know how to begin.
I'll make an introduction and then I will give it back to you. So I also wanted to thank the participants of the course, the participants of the CEO Meet and Master course. So all of you here today have somehow contributed to either creating it or prototyping it or are actually using it. And I hope you can benefit from the conversation today for your daily jobs and lives and whatnot. I also think that this is a very important initiative because in the online version, we don't have as many opportunities for interaction. We could write comments and write back to you. We could exchange emails, but having this opportunity to ask questions face-to-face and to either learn from other people's questions, because the group interaction is also very important, and this opportunity that we're having here today provides for that. And so before I go back to Corinna, the other caveat I wanted to bring here to this group is, why are we starting the live conversations, or why are we having this conversation around systems thinking? And the easy answer is the world is changing so much and changing much faster than it was before the pandemic. We already knew and had been living an environment of what they call VUCA, so volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That it was a formula that was coined by Warren Bennis and Bert Manus. And we also have a movement that is not starting now. This has been going for many, many years, and Corinna can definitely clarify many of these aspects for us today about systems thinking. So the old paradigm of science and scientific research in general assumed simplicity, stability, and objectivity. And we have now many other people, and Maria José Vasconcelos is one author that just published a book on this new paradigm of systems thinking that brings new assumptions to us. So complexity, instability, and intersubjectivity are more important now than ever. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to Corinna so she can start with some general words. Corinna, whatever you feel like saying, that's fine. And I will just ask anybody who wants to ask a question, please just type or raise your hand in the chat, and I will just follow the order that I see the questions coming, and I will try to make sure Corinna answers all of the questions for you. But this is an interactive session, so don't be shy. The idea here is for you to be able to participate as well. So Corinna, thank you so much. And
okay. Well, systems thinking is around 50 years old, but the first notice we have was with the old masters before Plato. You certainly heard about the holistic way of seeing the world, the people, and religion. In the beginning, the first study were the holistic study, how to adapt it to the social science. The Illuminism, Descartes mainly, the world as a machine or as a clock is not enough to understand how people interact and how society and culture are formed, change over the time. We are not denying the Cartesian way of thinking, We are inviting you to go beyond the boundaries of the linear world to become more flexible, to understand the social dynamics, the impact of a crisis in a larger world, and to understand how society creates beliefs, customs, knowledge, and practice. It's very difficult to understand how people interact only with figures or with graphics. That was the main issue that bored scientists in the human sciences. And therefore, the systemic way of seeing the world and the relationship became from biology to the human realm around 1965, in the early 70s. I think what we are living since the COVID-19 appeared in China is many things are flowing together: crisis, problems, and conflicts. And are you sure we have a way to solve everything what's going on right now? I don't think so. I'm not ready for the answer. The only thing I'm seeing, observing, and watching is how difficult it is for people to adapt to something very old, stay longer at home, and very new, go back to home and you are not allowed to go out. I would say that the best thing we can do is question and answers, because I know you have many answers, and it's easier for me to answer your questions than to give you another lesson. What do you think?
Anybody?
Marcela? You have a question? Your mic. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sure.
So it's a pleasure meeting you, Corinna. Thank you for being here. I was watching your video, and one question came to my mind. That is, what is the correlation between the systemic thinking and the decision-making process, considering like in an organization or even decisions that we make in our lives? And what came to my mind is we tend, maybe it's a linear thinking, we tend to assume that it would take longer to make a decision if we use system thinking than if we don't. Does it make any sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say system thinking at the beginning will take a bit longer, because it's not only top-down, but also bottom-up decision-making. So you have to organize, to talk to your employees or to talk to your team or staff in order to listen to them and to share what you think about a decision-making and how they can contribute. So the final version is coming together of different opinions and through consensus to solve the crisis or the problem, or to find a way out of the question you're asking. You have to change a culture.
Yeah, and it takes time sometimes.
Mm-hmm. A company that did it quite well at the beginning was Google. Nowadays they are falling to the linear thinking and mixing systems thinking, but the first 2-3 years they were very, very systemic in their decision making. But when the company grow and is a global company, it's very difficult to put everybody together and to join discussions and so on. So you have to work with both paradigms. However, when a bigger crisis comes, to join people and to have a consensus is much more interesting than up to down.
Great. It got cut up a little bit. I don't know if everybody heard Corinna all the time.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vicky. Okay, Marcela, that's good. Any other aspect, or should we offer the floor to someone else to ask a question?
No, I'm fine. Thank you, Dri.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank
Corinna.
You,
Hi, Vicente. How are you?
Here is Vicente. What you said is correctly, but on the other hand, this make a lot of difference depending on the stage and the type of culture that each organization has, right? Because there are several companies, even global companies, that they have a type of open door, open communications already process established, where the leaders or the senior people know majority of the time what is going on bottom line, and they know exactly how to react and how to perform and how to make a decision, because they know what is going on. If a leader is staying in their office and don't walk in the plant, doesn't walk in the organization, they stay sitting within his office, for sure, he will not make any decision based on others' information or other perspective, expectation. But so depend a lot on the culture and how far they are already in this open type of communication relationship with everybody in the organization. That's my view.
I agree with you. It's not an easy task. So if you see the companies that change their mind and are working, thinking systemically, it took them 5 or 10 years to make the change.
Mm-hmm. No, I know.
It's not fast and it's not easy, because you are working with communication and mainly with storytelling, because each company has a story, and how the meaning changed over the time, and how the impacts of the outer world impact the inside world of the company. So you have to change your view of the world. That's the first step. Mm-hmm. How is the world? The world is interdependent. It's interacting all the time. You can see it right now, what's happening in the world. We are working in Brazil. We are working with information that's coming from Europe to help us to change our problem inside the country. The country is too big for a unique solution. We need many types of thinking and solutions to solve our problems. The same happens in a company.
Correct. I don't believe in one size fits all anyway. And I also don't believe a global company that do everything the same way globally. But only to complement a little, these days everybody is working from home. So how to get everybody involved if everybody is working as a home office or out of the building or out of the company?
Remotely, that's a great question.
You are working, I work at home for 2 years. I decided that it was the best solution for me. You are not working at home. You change your address, but you are still living the same environment and the same culture as if you were in your office. It's different. Adriana, how do you say trabalhar em casa e trabalhar de casa?
In English, there is no distinction. It's home work.
It's very distinct. Usually you are working at home, you are home, you always work at home, or you are at home now because it's an order, or you can go out or you change it, and so on. It makes no difference.
Yes, in the organization from home.
In the organization from home, exactly the same.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Could I offer some clarification on that? It's working from home versus working at home.
Right.
As the distinction, at home means more you're more permanently, installed in your home. But
that's my case. Mm-hmm.
Working from home is more of a temporary situation.
Correct.
It's not only temporary, because you work with all the rules of the company.
But from home versus at home, Corinna.
In English, like you asked, Corinna, that's the different terminology that we use in English.
Okay.
Yeah, we are all working from home. So,
May I?
yeah.
I hope everybody else can.
No, it's me again, Corinna, Marcela.
Okay, Marcela. Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering, what if you don't have the time, the systemic thinking needs to make like a solid and long-lasting decision? You mentioned the crisis, and for me, I thought the opposite. I thought if we're in the middle of a crisis, sometimes we don't have the time needed to make that solid decision. What to do if we don't have this time?
Think that you are part of a bigger system. You are a subsystem in your company and in the society you live. So the decision you make, how big is the impact of your decision? How will it change people's not life, but people's well-being, or people being with you in your company or in your department or in your staff? You have to, I think the easiest way is to think a bit out of the box. Okay, I make a decision and it's maybe it is positive for me and for my staff, but maybe it's not so positive for the other people involved. How is the wave effect of my decision? If you have this big picture, it helps a lot, and it makes it's a significant change.
Okay, thank you.
Have you done the exercise? Do you know the exercise book, the workbook? It's the exercise number 3, where you are the smaller circle and there are other bigger circles. So it's like a wave. There is always an impact of what you say, what you think, and what you decide. And the difference is to consider the impact in each circle, so you have the bigger picture.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question. Oh, we cannot hear you.
Adriana,
Yeah, hear you.
You're on mute.
Adriana, você está mute agora.
Yeah, I lost the connection and now I'm back. So hopefully this will stay. But I love the question from Marcela. So who's next? Questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Vivi, go ahead.
Hi, Corinna. Good to see
Hi.
you. Would you mind talking a little bit more about the teams, looking at the smaller system, not as a company as a whole? But I feel that now in a crisis moment, the different elements of the systems are reacting differently, right? Mm-hmm. And the other idea of this thing of working from home, now the tension is more related to the private family system. It's more, mm-hmm. The tension is more there because we spend more time at home. And it seems that somehow alleviates the tension of the system of the office. Mm-hmm. And you need to pay attention to them as a whole as well, individually and as a whole. Does it make sense?
I think 30 years ago, there was a trend of the high performance teams and how to develop the high performance teams. And they were mostly organized around figures and goals. They worked together for a period of time, but not all the time. They were better under pressure, and they didn't work so good when life was normal. Part of the training of those teams were based on military experience, including the new trend named VUCA was also first trained with the military. So in the late 90s, a family therapist working with an organization decided to talk with one of those high performance teams and asking what was happening with their feelings. And they were all very, very stressed. Stressed because the focus was always figures, results, and goals and performance. The suggestion made was we have to be more human with those people. And this is what's going on right now with the COVID-19. The difference when you are sitting in the office, you are an employee, a manager, or a technician, whatever. When you are working from home, you are a person. That's the difference. If you have a child, I saw a boy coming, I think it was with one of you.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
That's very normal. I asked the manager, she has a baby, how are you doing with your meetings? Well, I have the baby with me. That's it. It's how it works nowadays. So the human side of each of us is much more evident right now. We are working from home, and that's good, because some of us we didn't have any idea with how our colleagues live, be at home, handle with their children, and so on. So I think the results are much more positive than in the office. We are working more, we are concentrating more, and the results are okay too.
Yeah, a friend of mine, she works for Citibank here in Miami. Mm-hmm. And she said last, I think it was, last week, the Friday, globally the company had the day off, although it wasn't a holiday. And the reason was they had so much, the bigger results from the last few months, everybody working from home. That was a way to compensate and say thank you to the employees. And they are not talking about going back to office until the end of the year, at least.
This is Facebook, LinkedIn, all the different companies have already established that, and they can come back if they want. They're giving them the liberty to also work from home.
Here in Brazil, 85% of the people don't want to go back to the office. They want to stay home. And do you have any idea why people are working more being at home?
This is my personal opinion. I thought about it a little bit. I was thinking about their saving on commute. They can take more breaks and they can administrate better the hours, for instance. But I was wondering if they are not also worried about losing the job. Yeah.
The first research was done in England, in London region, and the main issue that people are working more and are more concentrating from home is fear of losing their jobs.
Fear, you mean?
Fear. So then is the second question, what will we do when they come back to the office? The first thing you have to do is to work with their emotions.
This is a great point, because this is exactly what the systemic approach provides for you, the possibility to work with emotions, where in the traditional business world, this was considered a sin, right? A curse.
If you talk about emotions, right? And that's very important, how people communicate their emotions in different ways. And working harder came out that I'm afraid of losing my job. And that was the biggest issue. And I think we are doing the research in Sao Paulo now. I think it's the same result will come out here.
Yeah, here in the States too, I've been getting some information from LinkedIn talent area and other people who have been talking to us and saying that other companies are going to be considering that possibility, because people really now know that they can be productive working from home as well.
Another question, why are people choosing to stay at home?
So here's Jen. This is, I think, related to one point that I would like to make, because, okay, we've all been productive doing home office. I worked in companies that I was always allowed to do home office whenever I wanted to. So it was always great. But now everyone is doing home office. But apart from that, we have no other options of things to do. We have no social life. We cannot really go out and enjoy the outdoors. We cannot do all the other things that we used to do just to enjoy life and maybe to relax or to spend time with our families and friends. So at this moment, I think that maybe these statistics that we are getting, they might be a little bit biased just because we don't have many other options. And then people are just working a lot and actually getting very stressed. Something that should be good for us, like being at home, being able to take care of our kids, or being able to have more balance between work and life. I think that given the pandemics, it's a little bit messed up the results that we are getting.
I attack our jobs August or September, you still don't have a vaccine. You still don't have any medicine that will help you to deal with the COVID-19. So it's unsafe. It's safer to stay home. The social life will come back when you feel safe to get together with other people. And that's not happening right now. There are people that are really, really afraid to get in touch with other people. Once a week I go to the supermarket, and I try to go early in the morning, midday, and beginning the afternoon. People don't look at you. They don't say hello. You are using your mask. They avoid eye contact. So there is quite a terror to meet anybody that maybe you are my enemy, maybe you are the virus carrier, and so on.
Yeah, this is a weird feeling of unsafety.
Mm-hmm.
But that reminds me also, Corinna, that the older generation has been through wars and crisis before, and the younger generation has not. So do you see a different approach to the crisis and to this behavior, especially in the workplace, because they also need the contact to learn from the being close to the senior people? Do you think that there might be a generational difference there, the older versus the young?
Yes and no. The older generation that is from a European origin, they are more I know why we left Germany. And I heard all my life the stories of how was the war, how was the suffering, how difficult it was, and so on. So it's easier to be resilient in a situation right now. The younger people, they don't have the information. So if you don't have the information, you have not in your mindset how it works during a very, very difficult situation. And the younger people, rich or poor, they don't have the experience. How it is to, something is forbidden, something you can't do it, you have to stay, you have to take care, and you have to avoid some things. They don't have the idea how it works and the consequences. I think that's the main problem. it will not happen with me.
And you mentioned in the you mentioned in the course that we have 4 generations in the workplace these days.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how do you see that the new situation with COVID in light of that fact that we have 4 generations in the workplace these days?
I would say the youngest people is the most complicated right now. They don't believe that it's serious. They challenge the virus. The other 3 generations, they are doing fine. They are learning with each other. They are listening to stories. They are taking care of the elders. They are taking care of their children and so on.
So if you're a manager and you're managing millennials, you should be aware of that as well.
The millennials are aware. The problem is the people that are between 18 and 26. They are the end of the millennials and the beginning of the Z generation. They are problematic.
So I think Martha has a question. Martha?
Yeah, how do you engage people? I mean, how can you actually make people understand that it's better to actually thinking systematically other than the way that we used to do things before? So,
well, the engagement is with a training program and change of the culture, and the changing culture begins with the high management. If they believe and if they share their belief that a new way of working together is possible, and you do the training beginning with focus groups to have the opinions of the co-workers, what they think about it, it's the best way of engaging them.
So you have had experience transforming companies in that way, Corinna, yes? So different sizes of company that wanted to become more systemic have hired you in the past and in the present to help them go through the transition. And it's a long process, right? It's not something that happens from night to day, correct?
Mm-hmm. I have 2 experiences. One was a Canadian company in Brazil, agribusiness, 2,000 co-workers in 13 different states in Brazil. It took me 4.5 years to go through the project. It worked, it's working. Now it's 12 years old. And the other company with technology, software company, it didn't work. The manager wanted it hardly, but the people didn't agree. And they were in only 3 states in Brazil, because the local management didn't believe in systems thinking. They worked only with figures and results and pressure.
So there's something about this system that wants to tell the the senior manager, right?
The senior manager wanted it, but the companies in Santa Catarina and in Minas Gerais, they didn't agree.
So looking at systems, and now just a reflection about system. Looking at systems, it's a matter of what the system wants. Because if in the technology company, people don't feel they belong when they think about connecting themselves as a system. Using system thinking, actually.
The main change when you try to bring systems thinking to a company is stop thinking as an individual and begin thinking as a group. It's a collaborative way of living together, of being together, is to attend other needs as well as your own needs. And that's the main difference. If you are working very hard, or if you have high pressure as a culture of a company, forget about system thinking. And even if you have management, human resources, and getting together in a systemic way, you will always need the linear thinking if you want to see the results, if you want to be competitive in the market. So it's not, they are not one or the other. They can live together. And when you think in people and how people come together and how important it is to quality of life, free time, not commute so long hours a day and so on, you are beginning to be systemic without realizing it, because you are thinking in a community, to communicate for a community and not only for members of a company. I think we began with our work, our webinar, with how to think systemic. I think each of you, if you think how is your day, how you live with your family, with your colleagues, how is your preoccupation with what's going on, you are all in a way being systemic. When you go back to a problem and I have to solve it without thinking what's in the environment, then you are thinking linear. If we talk about sustainability, we have to be systemic. If you put your trash in your trash can, you are being systemic. But you have lots of people that they are not worried about their trash. Most of us are. And that's all systemic. It's how to hold the planet together, how to have a good life, how to give our children and grandchildren a place to live. That's all, that's systemic.
That reminds me of the other exercise that we have in the workbook, Corinna, that the 9 dots. It's an old exercise, lots of people have seen it before, but if you're used to just following the rules and just being very focused on the details, you don't have a broader vision, and then you might struggle a little bit to do that, right? So would you like to comment on that, please?
Yeah, there is a concept from anthropology, that's the peripheral vision. If you look at the 9 dots, only the 9 dots, you are focused on a square. Think beyond the borders of the 9 dots. That's the message of the exercise. Think outside the box. Think what is happening, not only inside the company, but around the company.
Isabella is sharing the screen here, so you can have that as a support.
Okay.
So can you go fast in the first
now
way of doing it?
You only look at the square with the 9 dots, without looking at the white area around it. You will try to join the dots without using the whole area. Try to look to the whole area, what happens?
So you go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't work. Now, a larger way, a larger system. So you have the answer.
One possible answer, but it's using the space outside the square.
The whole space. You can use the whole space.
Is what enables you to be able to cover the 9 dots with 4 lines without lifting the pencil from the paper, exactly. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Isa, for sharing the slides. We can go back to the more interactive approach format. Thank you. We have some questions here in the chat. Let me try to read that for you as well, Corinna. So we have from Malu, Corinna, how to use linear thinking, how to use systemic thinking. So she said she was with a problem in the connection, but and she cannot share the camera, but she's sending cheers from Brazil to all.
Okay. Linear thinking is if you, all the medical researches are linear because they work with figures and they need a straight answer. If you, as a therapist, as a psychologist, you also may work in a Cartesian way, but you also may use the same research in a qualitative way, and that's systemic. Discourse analysis, if you count how many words a person uses in a speech, is linear. If you search for the meaning this word is used, you are thinking systemic. That's a difference.
So we also have from Nayana a comment that builds upon the same topic, Corinna, and it is, so just a clarification. Why use linear thinking to measure and see results? Could we not use systems thinking to also do that?
No. The Cartesian way of math is linear. Math is not systemic. Physics, classical physics, is Cartesian. Atom physics, Einstein, is systemic. So you need both to understand the complexity of the world.
But maybe there is an evolution coming to integrate the multidisciplinary approach, right?
Sorry?
So maybe there is an evolution also integrating more the multidisciplinary approach, right? And because I see in the Santa Fe Institute, which is a university, a center for complexity studies, that they are bringing more of the different approaches together. So economics and physics with the complexity approach, they use a systemic approach, and they have been getting some different results. For instance, in economics, we would think that there was a stability. And with this approach, now they have demonstrated in research that it's not, that there is no such thing as stability, or, you have to consider a broader approach to that. So I think more and more the different disciplines are interacting and creating studies that are different from traditional science, right?
Yes, and we are becoming more and more complex, and complexity demands more than one approach, more than one paradigm to understand the complexity. Rodrigo, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I had a question, Corinna. So one of the things I'm thinking of is the current situation and implementation of system thinking. And I wonder on two things. One of them is how can we leverage the current situation to build system thinking in the company? And the second one, what changes on the KPIs, department and personal KPIs to make sure that people are following the system thinking?
The changing KPI is quality of relationships and reducing conflicts, interpersonal conflicts, and people are more focused if they don't lose their time in quarreling with other people. That's the difference when you use systems thinking in your job. So you use behavioral KPIs, yeah. They are more qualitative and not so quantitative. You have to work a little bit harder to understand them, to use them.
Because at the end of the day, that's one of the motivations that people have, and I go back to that example that you shared with us about Google, and makes me wonder, what has made them change. And at the end of the day, the system thinking, for us to be successful with it, we got to show the efficiency of it, and the efficiency of it is better production, better results, because that's what at the end of the day keeps us going, and that's what I'm bridging it to the KPIs, because people work at the end of the day, they provide results, and they know they have the goals of the week, of the month, of the year, and if they're not aligned with and if they don't see the efficiency about using system thinking, and then you have a great idea, but you don't have the right tools to motivate people to use and practice on So I'm just wondering about that, and I'm thinking of today's situation where everybody's at home or from home working, and and how can we leverage this to
KPIs, focus on goals and results, and 20% of your KPIs you use on behavioral level the first year. The second year you change 30-70 and then 60-40. You will see that your working, the company climate will increase, the conflicts will decrease, and the people will work a little bit more happier.
And Corinna, is that not true that the ESG metrics, the environment, social governance metrics that are now being more popular in the business world will also help us get more systemic, right? Mm-hmm. And some people are saying that because of the pandemic, the social that was not accounted for so much before is more important now than ever.
Yeah, mm-hmm. The social will be very, very important on the way when we are going back to be together, to join people.
Did it answer your question, Rodrigo?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
We also have a question here from Rosemary Corinna. So she says, during the pandemic, companies are finding that hierarchies are collapsing and that video conferences democratize organizations. Can you address that, please?
Well, I'm putting together a workshop next week to teach mediators, family mediators, to work online. It's very difficult if you have the human warmth, the proximity to work on personal conflicts and when high emotions are involved. It's a new field, it's a learning. I don't think it's better, it's different. But the most important thing, what we are discovering, that we have more time disposable since we are not leaving home every day.
And then I was also going to add, there is another line of systems thinking that is the phenomenological approach that says that
phenomenology is at the beginning, it was Cartesian.
No, I was just going to add that so in their line of thinking, they also say that there is a property of systems that is order. So it's important for you to keep a certain order. So to address Rosemary's point about the lack of hierarchy or not, systems tend to organize themselves in a certain order. So if you don't respect that order, the system tends to collapse. So there needs to be somehow an order to keep the system together. So maybe there would be some accommodation maybe.
There's always an accommodation because the order, we live in a patriarchal society, so there's always an order and obedience in our level. If you change it, people at home and working per video conference and so on, you are more collective and maybe more participating than obeying to some orders. It's another kind of order.
Yeah,
and I also, orders are accepted, both.
Yeah, and I also I think that there's a factor of the crisis. In a normal situation where you're not being challenged, you tend to be more competitive, and that's the regular business scenario. But when there is a crisis that unites people to go in a certain direction, there tends to be more collaboration. So this situation also may be due to the crisis more so than because there is no external fear or external factor, right, Corinna?
Each crisis means that there is a chaos, because before a new order emerge, there is a disorder. And we are living in a disorder, trying to get a new order. It takes time. So during chaos, you will join and hold together because you are not sure where to go and how to go, what to do.
Yeah.
The collaboration we are seeing now is a desperate one. It's not
Hopefully,
a normal.
hopefully it's not going to be just desperation. Hopefully lessons will stay and we'll be able to collaborate more, right?
It's possible that we emerge in a new order where collaboration is a heavier point than the individual. Alone, I do it myself. No, you need me, we do it together. Maybe that will happen. I hope
and again,
so.
you're thinking systemically, because this concept of emergent is very systemic, right? Can you explain that a little bit? Why this emergent is so important in system thinking?
That's a concept of Humberto Maturana. He says, we are born, living systems are born as very simple systems, and they become more complex at each interaction they have with their environment or with other people. This means a moment of surprise promotes a little disorder, and like chaos theory, after a disorder, the system emerges in a more complex order. Simplifying, you learn something. So you have more information, you have new meanings, and you are more able to deal with the environment and with other people.
Very nice.
And when we grew older, then you join the importance of spirituality. So you not only knowledge, but wisdom becomes a more important form of complexity.
That's very nice. I love that, because then it really will allow the different generations to collaborate and learn from each other and create the feedback loops that we need in a systemic approach to be more helpful. Yes, to be healthy.
Feedback is everything, because in order to reorganize after a crisis, you need a feedback that it's okay. So you reorganize positively. It's not okay. You have to reorganize again until you reach your stabilizing point, the next point of the curve.
Yeah, point of maturity, and then go back to the cycle.
Yeah.
So we have 5 minutes left, and I wanted to open the floor to a last question. Anybody would like to ask a final question? Don't be shy. Come on. I see some smiles. Please, come on. Don't be shy. Tatiana, come on. You have your mic open.
I have one question. If everybody is getting used to work from home or at home, and every company is, let's say, in some way accepting this as part of the new normal, what people will be losing of not getting together with their colleague face to face? What will you lose? Nothing.
Well, I have an example. A French company, a global French company, is changing the way of working together. People will stay at home three days in the week, and 2 days they're going to the office, and all the meetings will be online except strategic meetings. The economy they are making to organizing smaller offices is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a new way of working. Socializing twice a week, not every day.
So they choose when to be together and what can be done on their own. So they're changing.
That's a hell of a job for human resources now. How to fit when people come and how long they stay and so on.
See, Vicky, you have to go back.
Yeah, if I could add that, obviously you need to have the connection that makes this possible. The virtual relationships, I think, emanate from having had a presence, right? In a collaborative, in a shared workspace.
Yeah.
So, because this environment curates very much our interaction. We're not chit-chatting about a game or about the arts. We're talking business because it's a very specific, very rigid agenda, right? So we're missing out on the soft communication, the emotions.
I don't know how many hours Americans work in a day. In Brazil, they stay at the office or in their jobs 8 to 9 hours a day, but they really work 4.7 hours.
So it's not a matter of being at the office to work. It really is a, how do you measure productivity, or how do you measure performance with these new tools, right? I think we have a final question here from Tatiana, and then I think it's time to go, but let me see here. Oh no, she's just thanking so much for the session. Okay.
But I have just one.
All right,
one
everybody.
question.
Yeah,
sorry. I think one thing is that, do you guys think that the scope of work will change? I see a lot reprioritizing in the scope, a lot of work in this environment, and this has been helpful from a productivity standpoint too.
So will the scope of work change, Corinna?
Sincerely, it won't change. It will remain the same. We'll need some time to readapt, but I think it won't change too much.
And just to add a couple cents here, I think the skills might change, because now people are working more individually at home, and they are missing out on what Rosemary was commenting on, seeing other parts of body language and climate and things that you feel in a meeting that you cannot feel through the screen of your computer.
I am afraid when in 3 or 4 years, when you have the vaccine, when medication, everything is forgotten, little change will remain. I think so. The same happened in the Second World War.
You mean people forget after a while?
Mm-hmm.
And go back to
back to the old models of operandi. Mm-hmm.
We'll see. That's in the air.
That's
a very exciting moment. So I think the message here is, don't be afraid. Let's try to avoid the fear, and let's embrace the opportunity of the new to emerge, applying the systemic approach to get to a new normal. Right?
And as closure, systemic isn't a monster. We are all systemic. We only didn't know it. That's it.
Yeah.
If you have time during a weekend, someday, there is a wonderful movie, Mind Walk.
How do you spell it? Mind Walk?
Mind Walk.
Mind Walk.
Mind Walk.
All right. It's in Netflix or something?
YouTube. Yeah, it's available at YouTube.
We'll find the link and share it with everybody then. So you recommend that for the weekend?
Yes, because it's a discussion about Cartesian way of seeing the world and politics, and the systemic view of world and politics.
Perfect.
And
perfect.
Another reading, Social Systems, Niklas Luhmann.
Social Systems, Niklas Luhmann.
And another one, a very old one, Tao of Physics, of Capra.
Capra. Yeah, Capra is a perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll share the names with you. And thank you so much, Corinna, for being with us. Thank you, everybody, for joining and engaging and asking so many wonderful questions. It is a pleasure to have all these encounters. I hope we can have more coming up. And stay tuned. So this is the CEO Meet and Master program. And we're very excited to have all your contributions. Thank you very much. Stay engaged and stay with us.
Thank you very much. See you.